Hi, welcome to High Road to You. This is Mark Stouffer. And in this video, I want to share with you something I believe will really inspire and encourage you to just step back and analyze how efficient you are in your life and working smarter, not harder. I tell my kids this all the time. As we've built out our portfolio in the real estate and our businesses and whatnot, everything is about being more efficient. It's about being more precise in how you approach anything. And like everything that you do, I don't care if you're in the construction industry or you're the high-tech industry, sometimes you have to make a really big mess before you can clean it up. And this is even more important to how you approach your life in work and also how you balance that out in life, in your outside of work. And the reason this is important is because we have to work hard to establish ourselves a foundation that's going to provide for us and our family. And it's not always easy. So, you're always navigating with other people. You're trying to synergistically be, in concert with each other, right? And so I'm going to tell you the story that really made a huge impact in my life. And I was trained as a laborer. And then when you go into these environments, these job sites where everything's under construction, it's a complete train wreck. It's a mess. And you have to make a big mess before you can clean it up when it comes to, say, remodeling a kitchen or building a house or whatever the case may be. And a lot of people get lost in the mess, So I'm going to share with you some very specific techniques on how not to get lost in the mess. Right? Think about this. You're on a boat and, you're heading out to deeper sea and you can see, the white caps of cloud formation, the storm on the horizon, basically. And you want to avoid that as much as possible. And for me, I'll give you this picture, this environment I was in. You have electricians, you have plumbers, you have, demolition guys, you have framers. It's a complete train wreck. And you come into this environment and your work now has to be as efficient as possible in the storm of this chaotic mess. So what I would do is I would talk to the contractor, general contractor, developer, whoever might be the lead person on this particular project. And I would say, where's the water? Where's the power? And where's the layout? Where is my work? What am I involved with? What helped me the most was that I was always very well organized. Everything that I had was extremely organized. Everything had its place. So I didn't have to think. I was an autopilot where I could look at a glance and see that somebody was just, they spent more time looking for their tools or digging through their stuff, fighting with their hoses or electrical cords or whatever it might be. At a glance, I could see that they were very unorganized and very inefficient. And, it was hard to watch, painful to watch, actually. So when I entered the job, I could lay out my material and I can get in and out and be done and basically down the road and enjoying the rest of my day, basically. So ultimately, what helped most was, one, is to be very, very well organized and be efficient in that regard. And then also having everything that was trained. I had hydraulic hoses and electric hoses and water hoses, and everything just fell into place. It wasn't like a rat's nest trying to, untangle everything and fighting with it to, roll it back up. So that was critically important. It's working smarter, not harder. Now, I'll tell you, I went out to a job and there was a recession and things were really tough. And the estimator bid this job really low. And like a lot of companies, it's the cost can't always be passed on to the consumer or to the contractor or the buyer, who's going to be buying this house or whatever it might be. So as you navigate everything, you have time costs, material costs, labor costs. Those are the three costs. The only other cost is frustration. That's the biggest cost. Okay, and that don't matter. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. That's the nature of all industry, all business, all endeavors, right? You have time costs, material costs, labor costs, and then frustration costs. So I don't care what product and or service you're involved in. So I went out to a job and they were desperate. The company was desperate to say, we're losing our ass on this. We were converting these barracks, they were military barracks, into dormitories because the installation shut down. Okay, this is in California. This was old Fort Ord. And it was now going to be a campus, CSUMB. It was going to be a college campus. And we had to go in there and do this work. And the bid that they put on this job was it was killing them. They were bleeding to death, right? So they said, hey, can you go out there and help out? And also, there was a bit of a recession. So a lot of us were going to work maybe 2-3 hours, and then we'd be called back in and we'd go home because there wasn't a lot of work at this point in time. And so I went out there and I said, okay, just show me the layout. Where's the water? Where's power? Where's the layout? And let me get to the work that needs to be done. And the guys that were out there was 4 guys, and they all had their own equipment and they're all their own vehicles, and they are all approaching their projects. And there was a cookie cutter approach. Every structure was the same. All the layouts were the same from one building to the next. So I said, just point me to my layout. Where do I need to be? And they said, well, you can clean up after us. That's what you can do. And I thought, okay, well, I was pretty new to the company, but I had been in the industry previously. So I said, okay, I could be better used. So I cleaned up after him, and I kind of got the lay of the land, and it was a train wreck. It was a mess. And then I went back to the shop and said, look, I'd be better, more help to you and the estimator who underbid this job if you just give me my own equipment, my own vehicle, and let me get out there and do what I do best. So they did. And the next day I went out there and basically turned in my tag, and there was this, whisper. There was this, I could tell something was happening. And so anyway, the shop, superintendent calls me over and says, hey, I'm looking at your paperwork here. And he's like, I don't think this is right. And I said, what's not right about it? So anyway, he goes, let's see how you do tomorrow, and I could tell that there was, supervisors and people that were kind of following me and looking at my work throughout the day. And I just thought that was odd, right? But then I went back to the shop, I turned in my paperwork, and they said, hey, we're going to have you finish this job by yourself. And I said, you're kidding, wow, I'm okay, why? And he says, well, because you're doing the work of 4 guys. He said, you're kidding me, and he says, it's okay to pace yourself. And I said, I thought I was. So that's my point is that it's not rocket science to organize yourself in such a way where you're just much more efficient. Now, take it to the point of sharpening the saw, right? You're cutting a tree down, and you just stop so often that you sharpen the saw so that you can be more efficient in your work. And you're not working harder, you're working smarter. And so having my I could be blindfolded and go into my van at the time, my utility van, and get anything I needed without having to see anything. I just knew where everything was. And then when I would set myself up, I never had to think where my tools were. And it was just seamless, effortless. And also too, at the end of the day, I didn't look like a drowned rat. These other guys looked like drowned rats. They were done, okay? And I think that every job, no matter what industry you're in, you can find the tools and the resources and align them accordingly and approach your life in that manner so that, at the end of the day, I could work 12 hours and feel like I'm ready to go surfing, I'm ready to go cycling, I'm ready to do whatever else is available to do and have fun at the end of the day. So now the other thing, this was very important, is that, I was sought after, right? And I was in high demand. So while things were slow for everybody else, I was working 10, 12-hour days. And the other was I enjoyed the work. Because I was so efficient, it makes things much more enjoyable. Now, the other is that I am also very passionate about, working with the client and having that rapport. And so you're building these relationships constantly, maybe not with your coworkers because, they're jealous and they don't like, being outperformed, at such a level. But the bottom line is this, is that, I never had to concern myself. My work ethics, my reputation, preceded me. And so that's ultimately what you always want. Your skills are critically important to be sought after, in my opinion, as industries get disrupted, are critically important, right? And it's not difficult to find yourself in that zone, in that flow state. It's a beautiful place to be. I'll give you another example. Is that, I was on these huge jobs and, per diem and working with the Army Corps of Engineers. And I remember as a rookie, a pretty new guy to this company, I said, hey, why am I on these jobs? This is before, it was another company. And before I was working with this turning barracks into dormitories for this university. I said, I'm on these massive jobs and the per diem, they're paying for hotel, my food. And, I was really, really honored, honestly, to be working with this professional organization. The jobs entailed working on all this type of equipment. It was just exciting. It was exciting. And then, the guy that was the director, superintendent there, says, he's laughing. He says, you don't know? And I said, no, I really don't know. Why am I here and not the owner's son and all these seniors in the company? He says, Mark, you're the only one to pass the drug test. So being healthy is also important, and that's nutrition. I always preach nutrition, physical and social activity every day. It gives you the foundation to have resiliency and overcome and thrive. So that's what Higher Road to You is all about. And what I'm talking to you about right now, it's not rocket science. It's stepping back, really assessing, the task at hand, and just having that approach so that you're in that flow state, you're in that zone. And, you're going to outperform most people out there, if you just consistently find ways to eliminate steps. And that's simply what I did. I didn't fight with my material. I didn't, have to spend more time looking for the resources and trying to navigate how to get things done. I saw it for what it was, and I stepped back, I sharpened the saw, and then I went into those environments and, came out and feeling really good about my work and my performance on every level that I could, and then building rapport with people that were the decision makers and the influences of industry, if you will, that were able to help me pivot constantly as macro industries were disrupted. No matter if there was a crisis, a recession or a depression or, unprecedented times of COVID, you don't have to concern yourself too much with what's happening in the macro that you have no real influence over. But the micro, that's where you're at. That's the micro. It's like, okay, I have control. And then to be content with the fact that less is much, much more. Less is much, much better. And being organized in that environment is beyond precious. So I hope this message reaches your heart and your mind, and I hope it influences you and encourages you and inspires you to take the actions that you might need to take in your life to just find yourself in that place, in that zone. And with that, I hope this message finds you well.